You telling me I was the only one actually prepared? Because that never happens.
I had one line to finish, which is like 25 less lines than usual.
Okay.
Mine's probably going to be way short on time, but
I mean, to break the fourth wall for the two of you, like when y'all are doing your album reviews, I'm muted because I'm finishing the song reviews.
yeah.
Attaboy,
No.
attaboy.
I figured that.
I have absolutely written my write-ups for my like number 2 and number 1 while Jay was doing his number 3. So I feel you.
Dude, we were accused of being a professional podcast earlier this week, and if this little confessional moment doesn't completely destroy that idea, I don't know what else will. Actually, I do know what else will.
What's
The
that?
rest of the KickAss on this episode of the Fairly KickAss podcast. It's all got to go in now.
Yeah, all of it, every bit of it,
Sorry,
every
producer Nick
stupid
Lee.
word.
The whole ass bit, it's staying in.
It means it does mean you get to cut that 5 minutes about the Queen, though.
Oh yeah, that's got to go. They'll never hear that part.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
but the
will hear
sad
more
part
of
is,
us though.
the sad part is that was actually a bit. The shit that we're leaving in was not even a bit. Like it was just,
Yeah, what do you call it if it's like a bit but worse?
a shit.
Is there a word for that? A shit. You know, I don't think the podcast could be really referred to in any better way, to be fair. A real shit. And 3 shits. In fact, we got myself, Zach, you got Jay, you got Dan, and we are here today to talk about one of the longest lasting bands in popular music history and arguably one of the best bands in, at least in rock music history, if not music in general. That, of course, is the juggernaut that is Fleetwood Mac. I believe 18 studio albums, if my notes are not deceiving me.
Maybe 18 studio albums and about 140 live records.
Yes.
And then 6 or 12 greatest hits albums. Yeah, you know, the normal.
The usual, right? A recording history that went from 1968 to 2003 with stops along the way in every single decade. They're undeniable. It's one of those where it's hard to say things about an artist or a band that haven't been said, because especially one that's been around for this long, like we've all heard all the things. You listeners have heard all the things already. They are legends. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. They're just legends.
Yeah.
And we are going to talk about one specific track of theirs. So this is our one song episode where we take the entire discography of a storied artist or band, such as Fleetwood Mac, and we distill it down. We listen to all the tracks. We confer within ourselves to find that one diamond. I don't even want to say diamond in the rough, but that one diamond amongst all the other slightly less shiny diamonds, which is the best song in the discography, the one song, if you will.
Is this the biggest discography we've ever had for this particular, I want to say segment, but what ideally, I don't know if we've had an artist with a larger amount of material to sift through.
I mean, we did. No, this is probably the largest one. I think the Queen one's close.
Yeah, Queen would have been close. The Beatles didn't. I mean, they had a large catalog, but I don't think it was as big as 18 studio albums.
No.
Just looking at the other ones, we've done Pearl Jam, we've done Michael Jackson. The Stones might give them a run for their money.
Okay. But that's like the tier that we're working with.
Exactly. And that's why we choose those artists for these segments. We don't want the artist that only has, 2 or 3 studio albums. We're not shitting on that at all. That's still great, but we want to have some meat on the bone. So when we pick through it, it's hard. We have a lot of really difficult choices to go through and say, oh, but this song's so good, but that one's so good. How do you pick? We're going to find out how we picked here in just a couple minutes. We all get 2 minutes to make our case. We then discuss and talk about why each person's decision was incorrect, because there is only one correct answer. And in our minds, it's each of our answers. In your mind, listeners, you have possibly a different answer. We will get to how you can get that answer to us as we get into the podcast. But for now, let's jump into the batting order here. Longtime listeners will know that we don't ever do this ahead of time, which is why we have the long preamble, because I'm actually stalling before I can hit the random number generator to figure out who's going to go first, second, and third.
And it would be something that is so easy to fix, and yet we continue to do it in the worst way possible.
It's just our brand at this point, you know. It's marketing. That's how I look at it.
Marketing. Let's do everything wrong.
Oh, that's not. I gotta write that one down.
Yeah. That's a new tagline.
Oh, you said I had the voice taste. Let me give it a try. The Fairly Kick-Ass Podcast, doing everything wrong.
I like it.
There's your clip for the episode. Yeah, that's probably not going to be the clip.
And in that voice, it's got gravitas.
Yeah. It's true.
Like y'all think I am doing a bit over here, but I'm not. I do keep a Post-it note for all of our alleged mottos.
Oh, I've got them in the in our master spreadsheet as well. So we got a backup.
I feel like I should put this on the wall or something as sort of inspiration. So every time I think about it, I'm sitting here trying to make up my mind on the song or write a script or kind of think of that perfect joke. All I have to do is look up and just go, aim low. Yeah. Another Daw joke it is.
Good man. They always land. For me, I might be the only one. Speaking of me, I am going to be going first here in our little episode, followed by Jay, followed by Dan, batting in the third part of the order. He is in the circle and ready to swing.
Yep. Okay. That's how that
And I'm
goes.
in the rectangle.
Yeah. Now you may step up to the triangle because I have your time disc.
Ooh, I like the way that sounds. I am ready when you are.
All right. And 3, 2, 1.
Listeners, co-hosts, friends. It's hard not to be friends when we're sitting around talking about the legendary Fleetwood Mac. There's just something magical about them. And that's where our very brief 2-minute story begins back in 1973, but also back in the early 15th century or something. As the legend goes, Stevie Nicks read a novel called Triad, a novel of the supernatural by Mary Bartlett Leader. And one of the main characters of said novel just stuck with Stevie to the point of her sitting down to write a song about her own interpretation of the character. And thus, the beautiful, haunting, magical Rhiannon that we all know and love today was born. And that would have been a really cool story by itself if it was the end of the story. But alas, Stevie discovered even more magic to the tune of an identically named Welsh goddess whose tales were written about in the collection of Welsh prose known as the Mabinogion. And the lyrics not only applied to Stevie's version of Rhiannon and Mary Bartlett Leader's version of Rhiannon, but the Mabinogion's Rhiannon as well, in just the perfect confluence of Rhiannons. Thankfully, the song itself is amazing, preventing this anecdote from becoming just another fun footnote, and instead elevating it to the sort of lifeblood of the track. It's all here. It's everything you want. The understated guitar work from Lindsey Buckingham, the underrated bass line from John McVie. Seriously, that bass line is just out of this world. The perfect keyboard and subtle harmonies from the late, great Christine McVie. And of course, the appropriately supernatural lyrics written and crooned by Stevie herself. Mick Fleetwood perhaps put it best when he said, "If it was as if Merlin himself could not have concocted a spell more perfect." Like I said, magical. With 5 seconds to spare.
Yeah, you came in under. That's professional.
That sucks.
Well, I got good news for you. While your timing may have been professional, I wholeheartedly disagree with your pick.
Yes. Outstanding. We have something to talk about. Give it to me straight, Doc.
Well, I mean, it's not that it's, of course I don't dislike the song. It's a classic and it's a beautiful song. And, but it is literally 2 notes for the entire song.
And that's the thing. We can talk about a song that is so simple and yet so perfect. Like, it doesn't have to be complex. They have more complex songs. I'll grant you that for sure.
They do. They have better ones.
I don't know that I would grant you that.
It's a pretty song. I very much enjoy the song, and I will say this: my vehemence against it has more to do with the fact that I have performed it live, and it bores me to play it.
I could see that as well, I don't know if you were just solo in this or if it was like with the full band. I could see like just playing the solo acoustic. This may be a bit of a snooze factory.
Maybe. Actually, it was with the full band, and that was like you mentioned how great the bass line was, and it does sound really good, but it's about the most repetitive thing that I've ever played on the bass. That's not true. I have played Ted Nugent songs. Nix the thing that I just said. It's a good song, and I like listening to it. I do not like performing it.
You know, no matter what else you said, it's a good day if we can get a dig at Ted Nugent in the pod. I'm here for it.
Yeah, now no notes now. You're the Hundy P.
We're all in agreement.
I do kind of want to throw something out there to kind of sort of sidetrack the conversation slightly. As we mentioned, you know, the massive discography, but I feel like we're probably also going to be working within the realm of a certain band of songs, and I question the idea of repetitiveness possibly dulling the effect of some of these tracks, because that sort of is where I fit with Rhiannon. Like, again, great song, but I've also heard it a lot,
a million times,
and kind of one of the reasons that there are certain songs that you would think would be somewhere. Spoiler alert, like, and I don't know what Jay's about to say, so I couldn't tell you, but like for me, Go Your Own Way is the B tier, because I mean I got it. I got it. I can listen to everything else off that record.
Quickly changing my pick.
Ruh-roh. You know, and it was something that obviously with 2 minutes didn't have enough time to get into that, but absolutely, I agree with you. Like there is, and we see this with a lot of the acts that we've done, that there is a grouping of songs, a grouping of albums is a better way to put it, that is kind of like quintessentially the band. Because if you listen to like the first two, well, I won't get into that just in case I'm stepping on your toes, but suffice it to say,
yeah, same
yes,
thing. Don't you dare change your song. I want you to blast me for that.
No. If anything, I would have changed it to Go Your Own Way just to spite you.
Good man.
But as I have already written, let's say 90% of what I'm about to say, I'm not going to do that.
Well, my friend, if you're ready to make up the other 10% on the fly, got your timer here.
Oh yeah, I mean that was the plan. That was always the plan.
Yeah. Let me get us started whenever you're ready.
All right, let me zoom this out so I can actually read it. Okay.
3, 2, 1, go.
I'm going to say to begin this that it was just about the hardest decision I've had to make on one of these. Through all of the like tumultuous origins of the band, there have been many iterations of the act that have produced some absolutely fantastic music, and it really caused me to bounce back and forth between several tunes. But here's the thing. Songs become iconic for a reason. While the Peter Green era contains what might be my most listened to Fleetwood Mac song in Oh Well, Rumors has what could be argued the best 4-song run ever put to vinyl, starting with Don't Stop, then Go Your Own Way, Songbird, and my choice for Fleetwood Mac's one song to rule them all, The Chain. Cobbled together from bits and pieces of songs that didn't quite make the cut on all of their solo efforts, like solo efforts from Stevie Nicks and Christy McVie and Lindsey Buckingham, as well as lyrics that Stevie had written about her breakup with Lindsey. Now they're no longer together, but chained together, you know what I mean? It's the only song in their catalog that gives every member of the band a writing credit because of how it was cobbled together. But the music itself is what makes this my one song. that dobro intro with Mick Fleetwood's quarter note pulsing kick drum gives me literal chills. The entire song is sung in choral harmony, consisting of some of the most iconic voices in rock music history. Then the song does this thing where it becomes a second, somewhat different song with just the greatest bass line, to your point. Like, that is one of my favorite bass lines ever. Lots of acts have attempted to do versions of this song, and none of them have done it quite the justice that the original artists have done it. Was that it? I can't remember. Okay, cool. So for that reason, it's my one song. I forgot what the signals were.
Sorry. Oh, that was 10 seconds. Sorry.
Cool.
I specifically stopped giving the fist for 30 because y'all didn't know what that meant, so I gave you 3.
Oh, and that's what I thought it was always at, because I saw you do it. It's like, I'll just do what Dan does.
No.
It's fine. I stopped talking any. It doesn't matter. It's the best song.
I will say that I feel about The Chain like Dan feels about Go Your Own Way, in the sense that I almost wish I'd never heard it at all, because hearing that song for the first time, I certainly was not old enough or wise enough to appreciate it.
Okay.
Hearing it for the millionth time, it certainly loses its luster, which is not at all a knock on the song. It's more just lamentations, I guess.
All right.
Yeah, it's not the best song of their catalog. I will say that, but it is a beautiful song. I did not realize that was the only song in the catalog that every member had a writing credit. That is a really interesting little tidbit.
To be fair, later on, Lindsay would then turn around and question whether Mick had done much of anything.
That's because Lindsey Buckingham was an asshole.
What that man said. Because Lindsay also says that quarter note kick that you're talking about, he just told Mick to do that and just keep it. Just keep doing that. You're fine. He essentially gave him the keep it simple, stupid, or according to him, he gave Mick the keep it simple, stupid speech.
Here's the thing. I buy that because having been in bands, sometimes you just have to tell your drummer to cool it the fuck down.
I didn't realize there was going to be a forum for drummer jokes. Go ahead.
Yeah, both of you highlighting a point with a band that's been around since the 60s. Like, it's not always sunshine and roses. And that is certainly the case in spades. Not that we have time to go into the sometimes tumultuous history of Fleetwood Mac, but
there's like 3 records worth of it there, just laid out bare.
Yeah.
Peaking with rumors, actually.
Yeah.
I do find it amusing. So, well, you say peaking. I may have a different stance on that, but
Are you trying to start the rumors versus Tusk argument?
Yeah, that's the one.
That's fair. It was a matter of time.
Well, I mean, it's literally, it's 1A, 1B. If you're not with one, you're with the other.
I've heard a few arguments for the self-titled record too, but I literally just had this conversation with my significant other earlier today, where I commented on how Tusk was the most, like, it's the weirdest of their modern era albums, and therefore probably my favorite, but there's no hits on it. Like, you can't pinpoint something that would make radio.
This is a fair point.
Cannot argue that.
No.
As I look through the track list, like, no, not that one, not that one.
You recognize this? I'm pretty sure I know this one. Pretty sure I know this one, but I don't know about that one.
Yeah, there's some really cool tracks on that record, though. So if you're not familiar, you should obviously we should all be familiar because we went through their whole catalog, but for the listeners, if you don't know it, listen to Tusk and then go back and find the Camper Van Beethoven cover. They did the entire thing front to back, and it's just weird.
That sounds amazing, actually.
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
Let's take this band's weirdest record and have Camper Van Beethoven cover it front to back.
Yep, exactly.
There's no way this doesn't come out weird.
Right. Well, Dan, would you say that your one song is weird, or would you say it is more traditional, or somewhere in the middle?
I'm more inclined to say that I was really hoping I was dangling that out there so you would have a segue.
No, I appreciate that.
Casting that line out, and
I needed one. I was in the middle of the ocean.
I figured you might need a something.
Well, I have your 2 minutes whenever you are ready, my friend.
Alrighty. I'm good to go.
3, 2, 1, hit it.
Don't remember if this is how I usually get into the process of finding a one song, because to be honest, I can't remember my process. But to be fair, I can't remember what day of the week it is half the time, so that's not really like a true indicator. But I had a song in mind immediately when given this assignment, and then I went listening to see if there was a track that I could find to change my mind. And while I found a lot of songs that would get an A from me, nothing knocked the chain from its S-tier peak. The only song off from the world-beating record Rumors to feature writing credits for all 5 band members. The record's magnum opus weaves through a musical tapestry to create a devastatingly impressive expression of how close this band was to imploding in front of the world. There is an uneasy tension that rolls through the verses of barely veiled venom from Stevie Nicks' pen before being abruptly halted by that iconic bass line of John McVie. And then just because in rips Lindsey Buckingham with a incredible solo before the outro makes the statement about the only place the band remained united at the time, their music. It is a musical and emotional roller coaster smack in the middle of a record full of pop rock classics, a blatant statement putting the real subject and meaning into the record right in listeners' faces if they hadn't already picked up on it yet through Dreams, Never Going Back, Don't Stop, and Go Your Own Way. It's painful and beautiful in a way that's unique in the catalog and is probably the most united statement from a band that throughout its history and multiple incarnations never seemed to speak with a single voice, but that combination of its members. Full unity isn't necessarily a positive, but when it comes in the form of the realization of that chain, it can produce some truly moving music. You don't have to run out the final 6, just go for it.
Once again, done well in time. I think all 3 of us had like 5 seconds left on the clock, which is a first.
Yeah, it may as well have just been all of us going song drop. With the exception of the fact that I feel somewhat vindicated by the fact that Dan has yet again agreed with me on a 1 song. However, I'm also mollified because he did it better.
Here's the part that I love, and again, this is why no one will believe us that we don't like rehearse or like do anything. That we both wrote these 2-minute pieces. You focused on the actual music, and I followed in with lyrics and emotion. So we had the whole thing covered from top to bottom without even knowing that's what we were doing.
No, if we had tried to coordinate it would have been much worse.
No, it would have been shit if we had tried to do this. If we had like tried to get together to gang up on Zach, like, no, it would have been blatant and it would have been terrible. And everybody would have told us, no, you 2 are idiots. Obviously, Zach wins.
Right. Except that he picked Rhiannon.
For what it's
Except that he picked Rhiannon, obviously.
For what it's worth. They might actually still.
No, for what it's worth is Buffalo Springfield.
Yeah, that's a whole different episode.
If this was, I will say, I will give you both credit. If this was a 2-song instead of a 1 song, then it's Hall of Fame. Your entry is not, it's unbeatable.
Okay.
You're going to keep trying to push that rock up the hill, huh?
I'm going to try to. Wait a minute. What do you mean rock up the hill? I'm giving you a compliment for once.
You are sticking to your guns on Rhiannon, though, and that feels very Sisyphean.
I am indeed.
Moment.
I am indeed.
What songs were like the next ones on the list though for you? Like if you hadn't picked Rhiannon, what were the next ones that almost made the cut?
Well, you mentioned the Peter Green era, and I wanted to at least, kind of shout that out a bit because it was, at least sonically quite a bit different and quite a bit more bluesy than the rest of the discography. And it's not necessarily that it was better or worse. I think arguments can be made, and you've made that argument yourself earlier, Jay, but you think of Fleetwood Mac as a narrow band of albums, and these albums just weren't in that band. But from their second studio album, Mr. Wonderful, the track Love That Burns would certainly be up there for me. It's a slow burner of a track. It's got a bit more depth. It sounds derisive. That's not fair. Like it's blues music. It is what it is. But this one, I think, did kind of hit a little bit more and a little bit better than some of the other stuff in the Peter Green era. I also, of course, had to include one of the more popular singles. I did go with Don't Stop from Rumors. When Rhiannon hasn't been stuck in my head the last several days, Don't Stop has been there instead. one of the absolute best of their popular singles. And I think, Jay, you mentioned in that 4-song run that you were talking about.
Yeah, that one kicks off that 4-song run.
Well deserved of its place there for sure. And then finally from the from the weird mention album Tusk, it's kind of I don't want to say it's a continuation, but certainly a song in the same vein, surrounding some of the same characters, or at least the Rhiannon character, that being Angel. Also kind of about Lindsey Buckingham, also kind of about Mick Fleetwood, and not quite as good as Rhiannon, but still a pretty fantastic tune.
I think I like the rest of your list better than your choice.
I thought you might, actually. I thought you might.
Dan, how about you? What if you hadn't agreed with me, what would be?
I'm not gonna lie. I went back and forth for a little bit, deciding whether or not Silver Springs was gonna get the nod, because I assume no one would agree with me first and foremost.
Yeah, you'd be right about that.
I figured as much. But here's the thing though, and the other problem is I also have examples that like everything that Zach just said, with the exception of one that was an extremely personal thing, because it was kind of one of their first songs that ever get stuck in my head as a kid, and that was Little Lies. I don't know why, but like it was always on the seemed like it was always on the radio at the time. But then at the same time, I turned around and went, wait a minute. I like this random Priest song from the 80s. This is the Green Manalishi. Wait, holy shit, that's a Fleetwood Mac song? What the hell? So that was a good introduction ahead of time in there. When my Tusk inclusion was Sisters of the Moon, by the way.
God, it's a great tune too.
You had to do that. But of course I had that and Don't Stop and Dreams and Landslide, and Songbird as well.
Yeah, so that 4-song run, we mentioned everything except, I mean, I think we're all kind of over. I
think we're all kind of go over. Yeah. Go your own way.
Go your own way. I mean, it's a fantastic tune, but I think we all ditched it for the same reason.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I had a similar thing where like Little Eyes popped up on my list too, and the only reason that I didn't want to include it in even my short list is because I feel like that was the era where the ladies had kind of taken over on Fleetwood Mac. Like you got the Stevie Nicks voice and the Chrissy McVie voice, and the rest of the band kind of took a back seat to it. So I focused my energy on the era of the band where you could hear everybody and all of their voices were encompassed.
Yeah.
There's nothing. I love Tango in the Night. Like that's a fantastic album. Some of the later stuff is a little weak, but that album is probably the last of their fantastic albums, truthfully. No, go ahead. I
was just saying, I think that's usually part and parcel with every band that has been around for like a million years. Like the late stuff, unless you're Pearl Jam, which I still don't know how they've done it, but yeah, it's hard to sustain that.
Yeah, it's really hard.
I mean, I will just add this, and we may even take this one offline, but I think this is probably the biggest quote short list that I ever made, and had to sift through because. Like I got a list and there's like 40 some songs here.
It's not surprising.
And even the problem is listening to the albums. I had this thing in the back of my head that kept coming up and I don't know why. I go for a prolific artist as much that had these monumental songs. Like some of these records are full of just also rans. But then I go back to the list and look at stuff and go, okay, I'm going to rate this. I'm going to rate this and rate this. The stuff, by the time I go through and look at the stuff I had written down, I'm like, I wrote down like 5 albums of stuff. What the hell?
Like your honorable mentions is literally like multiple greatest hits.
Oh yeah, no, totally. I had that same realization hearing the original of Black Magic Woman going, I can see where it coming. Like Santana's licks took this song someplace better. But I can see what you're doing with it.
Vocally, I like the original.
Sure.
And that's the thing. Like if I'm my casual listening experience, I would much rather throw on a blues record. So I listened to the Peter Green era of Fleetwood significantly more frequently than I listened to the stuff that came after. And But I say that knowing full well that Stevie Nicks is one of my favorite vocalists of all time too. So like I'm torn there.
Like,
Right,
which way do you go? Yeah, I was curious about you. I mean, both of you, but especially you for that reason. I figured it was either going to be something off of like the first album or something off of Rumors.
Just say or something off of Tusk, maybe. Oh, well,
Or
yeah, that's
Tusk.
fair.
Yeah.
Or Tusk. See, Tusk makes sense to me, and I did have a Tusk song on my short list too, which is, it's funny that all three of us did, because I had The Ledge, which is like, it's just a comical song. Like it's all over the place. It's a cartoon, and I love it. But it is weird to me that all of us had a song from Tusk on our short list.
Is it really like it does kind of make sense, actually.
For the three of us.
For the three of us, it does kind of make sense. But I also want to point something out that kind of also wraps into what we were saying about the chain, is that if you also go through and listen to all the songs that we mentioned on our short list, including, I mean, there's more that I didn't, like You Make Love and Fun, but every band member is represented with a piece of them and their and some of their writing and a chunk of their work. So even Peter Green. So, like you said, when all the pieces come together,
you get Rumors.
Some level of magic there. Yep.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Very nice. That was I don't know if I expected y'all to be, I didn't expect either one of you to have the same pick as me. I don't know if I expected you to have the same pick, but I don't hate it.
No, I fully expected 3 different songs, honestly.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, we can always pretend and go back and say that I used Go Your Own Way.
There you go.
No. Anything with that.
And if we ever do a Stevie Nicks one song, the correct answer is absolutely Stop Dragging My Heart Around with Tom Petty.
Tom Petty. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
See, we might have, I'm on Edge of 17.
That's like 1A, 1B.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I got to go with Dan if I had to choose, but that's another episode for another time. We do have to land the plane on this episode here. And thank you all, as always, for listening to this episode. We have tons more content coming around the bend. Wherever you get your podcast of choice, you can find us there. You can also find us on the social medias. Let us know if Dan and Jay were right, if I was right. I feel like this is a question with very few wrong answers, but I'm curious to hear what you think is the best Fleetwood Mac song. So give us a shout at Fairly KickAss on Twitter, at Fairly KickAss on Instagram, at Fairly KickAss on TikTok, fairlykickass.com, where you will find the ride-along Spotify playlist for this episode. It will include all of our one songs as well as all of our honorable mentions in order, so you could follow along with the episode. You could play it all at once. You can go back and forth if you want, however you like to slice it up. Totally up to you. The website will also have all of our ride-along playlists for our previous episodes from when we made the switch from being a Spotify exclusive podcast, which at this point would have been 3 episodes prior, with more to come. So definitely check that out. fairlykickass@gmail.com for any more lengthy inquiries, sponsorships, whatever y'all got. We're here. Operators are standing by as always. Anything else for this one, boys, before we put a pin in it?
I don't know. I feel like I could talk for days.
I feel like you should talk for days. It's not going to be recorded, but you can still talk.
Oh, fair. Yeah. That's going to happen.